What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Wednesday, September 13th, 7 p.m. And for the first time in a long time, all three of us are here on time for the start of a Behind the Glass podcast, broadcast, live stream, whatever you want to call it. Earl the Pearl, Anthony Antonelli, McNuggets, the usual three, bringing you guys the latest on the Browns, previewing what's ahead and everything else that needs to be discussed as we move forward. We already got Jay Daniels in the chat. What up, Jay and Anthony? How you feeling, sir? A little lighter than before?
A little bit. Had to run home real quick. Didn't think I was going to be on time, so I'm glad we set the record of being on time.
Or how you feeling today?
I'm good. How was the podcast last week without me? Did y'all hold it down?
Bull took your spot at the end there, and it was Bull.
Listen, we missed you, Earl. It's never the same without you. Last week being the first week of football season, adding on all the graphics and games and stuff we make during football season that we don't do during the summer. It was an inconvenient week for you to be off, but I know you need a little personal time. I know you can't schedule your friends' and family's weddings around our football schedule. So let's just say we are very glad to have you back in the fold and sounding better than you did this morning.
Yeah, it sounded better than I did this morning, man. Still trying to, push through, do what we got to do. I think you alluded to it. Right now, we are the worst sounding trio of production team probably in all of Cleveland right now. But we still getting the job done. We still making sure that the content is fire. So we're going to do what it do.
You guys are from Ohio, born and raised. Are the allergies always this bad? I feel like my allergies have never been worse than they've been in this last 2-week span here. And I live downtown. Like, they're killing me. Like, brutal.
Yeah, Miles has been bad, too. I know for me, it comes and goes. Like, I don't normally feel like this, but when I do, it takes like 2 or 3 weeks for it to get out my system. So crazy. I think it's been a bad allergy season this year.
I've never had fall allergies until like the last 2 years.
I'm sorry. Yeah. All right, well, here's what's on the docket today. We're going to give it another minute or two to let people get in here. We're going to put a final bow, a recap, a final chef's kiss to the Browns' Week 1 performance against Cincinnati. We're going to preview the Browns' biggest matchups in Monday Night Football between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. We're going to talk about which cornerback on the Browns is really DB1 or CB1, and the fact that we can even have that discussion is a testament to what Cleveland has put together in its secondary. We're also going to answer some questions from you guys about whatever you have, but mostly in relation to UCSS moving the last half hour of its Friday show to WKYC, why we're doing it, what it means, and how it's going to, in the long run, help the YouTube show and everyone who watches on YouTube. But one thing we do want to stress, and we'll answer your questions on that at the end of the show, YouTube's still our first priority. Like, we are not leaving the people who made us who we are. We have not forgotten about you guys. We will not forget about you guys. And I promise you, everything we're doing on the TV side will then be eventually put on YouTube. And we are hopefully doing this to expand the audience and have a product that we can then put on both at the same time. But we're never forgetting about the YouTube people, especially the people who show up every day in the chat, who engage with us, who comment on our polls, vote in our polls, comment on our question today, all that stuff. You guys really are the real MVPs of this whole process, and nothing we do will ever be without you guys in mind. So just keep that in the back of your head as you hear about all these new developments here with UCSS. Earl, and before we dive in, you guys want to add anything to that? We're going to get into it at the end of the show, but do you guys want to add anything to the UCSS to WKYC thing before we do van questions later?
I wasn't here from the start of this, but I've been here for a very long time now. And like you said, the YouTube part of this, that's where we rooted. That's home base. That's where we grounded at. I can't thank you all enough from the bottom of my heart, for accepting me, accepting all three of us into your homes, into your cars, wherever you be on a day-to-day basis. We appreciate you all. We try our best every day to give you the best content available. And, we're just trying to grow this thing in as many different ways as we possibly can. But, yeah, we ain't going nowhere, man. We ain't never leaving YouTube, man. This little YouTube show ain't little no more, but we're going to be on YouTube. We ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, no, we're not small, and that's thanks to everybody here. I think this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for all of us, for the fans, for us, for the talent. So I'm excited to get it started, but just know you guys are still top of mind. We'll be there still every day, 2 hours on YouTube, except for Friday.
Yeah, so we're going to put a little bow tie on Cincinnati, and then we'll dive into Pittsburgh. But Earl, it has been now almost 3.5 full days since that absolute beatdown of the Bungles on Sunday. We did the post-game show. You gave your initial thoughts then. Is there anything you want to build on, talk about, capitalize on from that defensive performance, or from the offense, really, in any performance, from that total team win that you have a final thought here? It's almost like a final take, but give us your final take now, 3.5 days removed from the win, on how you're going to remember and look at that Browns 24-3 win over the Bengals.
I mean, I think that any time that you can come out and beat a divisional opponent, especially the first game of the season, it does something to set the tone. And once you set the tone, it sets a certain attitude for the entire team going forward, especially a team that's just went and played in the AFC Championship. Now, we know we got the Cincinnati Bengals. We're 6-1 over the last 7 games against Cincinnati, but it was a lot of noise that, was being chirped. And then you think about everything that led up into that game, people not really knowing how to view the Browns, not how to judge the Browns, just a lot of, uncertainty around this football team. I think that defense solidified itself as being for real. And I believe that this defense, it won't always be as dominant as it was last Sunday. But I think that this defense can maintain this level of play, this style of play throughout the entire season. So it'll be interesting to see how this unit goes into Pittsburgh in a hostile environment and do what they have to do. Now, as far as the offense, I think that the offense played about average. Nick Chubb did his thing. He balled out. We all know Deshaun Watson didn't have a good game throwing the football, but he did enough to lead his team to victory. And I think that if I'm somebody that's on the offensive side of the ball, I'm encouraged because, it was a lot of throws that was in the dirt. It was a lot of throws that hit the ground, but he also connected on some dimes. And at the end of the day, he did lead, a lot of scoring drives down there. So I think that when you look at that, I'm encouraged. Deshaun Watson didn't play well. The offense didn't play that great. We had some drops and things like that, and we still came out victorious, and we talk about, the 3 styles of play or the 3 components that coming away with a victory. And that's winning the game in the trenches. Being able to control the line of scrimmage, strong defense and turnover battle. And we won 2 of the 3 categories and we came out victorious. And so if the Browns can take that approach every single week and just make sure that they win 2 of the 3 categories, I think they'll be okay. And I think that this thing is for real. And I think it's only going to gain steam as we move forward.
And last thoughts on the Bengals game?
Yeah, I think the defense actually exceeded my expectations a little bit. I expected them to be not too much higher than they were last year with Jim Schwartz. I wanted to see it for myself, and I think they blew me out of the water with how well they played. Thanks me for drafting T. Higgins on 2 of my fantasy teams, and thanks Martin Emerson for not letting him get a single catch. The offense, it was shaky, but it's Cleveland weather. When that stuff happens, you expect it to be shaky, and that's why I'm happy we have Nick Chubb. Chubb got it done, and when you put Mixon versus Chubb, I'll take Chubb every time.
Yeah, I'll wrap this up real quick. I still have questions about the offense. I don't think we possibly could have answered those questions. Joe Burrow was horrendous. Deshaun Watson wasn't great. I think they'll both be fine in the long run, but I do know this defense is legit. The way they played in the preseason translated almost copy and paste into the regular season. And when you have the amount of talent they have, especially on the defensive line and in that secondary, in bad elements, you should dominate. They did. And I do think it's going to start opening eyes of people outside of Cleveland to how talented this roster is. We talked time and time again throughout the preseason and the training camp sessions and the offseason about how the Browns, and Andrew Berry in particular, had added talent to positions of need on this roster. And you saw on Sunday, in all 3 phases, at least defensively, they were stout. Is it sustainable at 3 points a game for the rest of this season? No, they're going to give up a touchdown. I promise you, breaking news, bold prediction, the Browns will give up at least 1 touchdown this season. A team will score more than 3 points at least once this season. So, I think what we saw is translatable and sustainable. I just don't think at that level of play. You're not going to hold every quarterback to under 100 yards. You're not going to hold every team to fewer than 200 yards. That was kind of the anomaly. but it's the right side of the anomaly. I still have questions on offense. Hopefully we get them answered on Monday, and that's where we got to transition to, Earl. When you look at this matchup,
I had a question for you on that though. Before we do that,
go ask away.
Two things on that. On the other side, on the defensive side of the ball, us three have we've done a pretty significant deep dive into Grant Delpit, right? Mm-hmm. We all believe that last year we started to see the potential of the guy that we thought we drafted at that time. And, just seeing him game one in Jim Schwartz's system, it really got me excited about, okay, this is the dude that, he looked like LSU Grant Delpit. He looked like that guy that was in the box being able to make some plays. I think it was a play late in the fourth quarter. It was a third down play. And, he just kind of came out there, closed it out real quick, made sure that the receiver wouldn't be able to get the first down. And that was something that we didn't see.
Great. His tackling was phenomenal.
Yeah,
the whole team really, by the way, tackled phenomenally.
Yeah, that was something that we didn't see. And I mean, to your point, no, it's not going to be that dominant week in and week out, man. But the one thing that we do know about the National Football League is if you got a good running game and if you got a good defense, those two elements travel. And the Browns look like, even though it's way, way early, we know what we got in Nick Chubb, but it looked like the Browns got, that defense to go with it.
Yeah, we've seen, and I don't want to get on a tangent on this, but we can get back to it. Running and defense can win in the regular season. It's very hard to win in the postseason with running and defense. You become the Tennessee Titans if you have a good defense and a running game and no quarterback. I don't think Deshaun Watson counts as a no quarterback, but we still got to see it from number 4 before we know he's back. And tomorrow on the show, a little teaser, our lead topic is whether or not this is the game Deshaun Watson breaks out and cracks that 300-yard barrier in a Cleveland Browns uniform. Moving ahead to the Steelers game, Earl. And actually, I wanted you to start this one. When you look at these two rosters on Monday Night Football in front of a national stage, where do the Browns have their biggest advantage over the Squealers?
Oh, probably a quarterback, easily. I don't think Kenny Pickett is that at all.
Okay.
I'm not going to spoil the headlines for tomorrow, but a lot of them are taking shots at Kenny Pickett and his inability to throw the ball effectively. That's where I'm looking.
Earl? Or do you want me to go? Because I'm going.
I got two different areas, right?
Well, pick one because I bet you we have the same one for one of the others.
So I think I know where you're going. I'll pick one. I think the place that we got the biggest advantage, because I know where you're going, even though it's two places. So I'm gonna say 1B. I'm gonna let you have 1A. Okay. 1B for me would be our DBs to their wide receiver group, right?
Perfect. Good choice.
If you look at our entire DB room, you look at Emerson Jr., Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome. Hell, we didn't even see Juan Thornhill last week.
Yep.
He's
supposed to play. Expected to play.
We just talked about Grant Delpit. Rodney McLeod came in and he held it down. When you look at our defensive backs, we already know the Pittsburgh Steelers is going to be without Deontay Johnson, which is a significant loss in my opinion because, George Pickens is considered the deep threat or the big play guy. But when you don't have a guy like Deontay Johnson out there, it's easier to roll more coverage over to Pickens. It's easier to make him more of a focal point of what you're going to do to stop whatever passing attack that Kenny Pickett might have. Allen Robinson has become a journeyman wide receiver. He's not somebody that I'm necessarily worried about. And so when I look at their pass catching room and I look at our DBs, hands down, it's advantage Browns. I already know where you're going, so go ahead and get the people.
Did you see my tweet earlier?
I seen your tweet.
Yeah,
and
that's where I'm going.
Right.
Listen, we have made a lot, and rightfully so, about how Dawand Jones and Jed Wills are going to have to stand up and block TJ Watt, who's an all-pro, and Alex Highsmith, who is one of the better pass rushers in the NFL that you don't hear of a lot. He's not on the same level as Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons. He's not on that level, but the dude is a very effective pass rusher, and it helps when you play next to Cam Hayward and TJ Watt. You're getting a lot of one-on-one opportunities. However, we haven't talked about this yet on the show, and it's one of the things we'll talk about in the coming days on UCSS. It helps when we have an extra day, by the way, when they play on Monday.
Absolutely.
We'll out some of these gold topics, but how in the world are the Pittsburgh Steelers supposed to block the Browns' defensive line? Listen, is the Browns' defensive line the best in football? Maybe. Might be. I don't know yet. It's one game. I do know they're very talented. I also know San Francisco's defensive line is in that same category, in that same discussion with Cleveland. up there as one of the most talented, one of the most effective defensive lines in football. Last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they generated 28 pressures on Kenny Pickett. 28. Yeah. Not like 8, not like 2 + 8's 10, like 28. Kenny Pickett dropped back 34 times, was pressured 28 times. When Kenny Pickett tried throwing the ball, he had a 250 to 300-pound man in his face trying to take his head off. Well, okay, that's 49ers. What about the Browns? Well, I have a stat for you guys. Last week against the Bengals, the Browns defense had an average time of pressure of 1.95 seconds. Okay, you want some context? According to True Media Sports, that's the 6th fastest average time of pressure by a defense in a single game they've ever recorded. Ever. Now, the data only goes back 5 years. But in 5 years, that is the 6th fastest total team time of pressure they've ever seen. So let me put that into what that means for the Steelers and the Browns on Monday night. The Steelers can't block. The Browns have a damn good pass rush, and Kenny Pickett was running for his life against San Francisco. That should be the same case on Monday night. Grades-wise, PFF, we talked about it on Tuesday. It doesn't exactly always match up. However, the Steelers' left tackle had a grade of 33.7. Jed Wills was 25% better than this guy, according to PFF, and we all know how we felt about Jed Wills' performance against the Bengals. Their left guard had a 40.1 grade, according to PFF, lower than Jed Wills. Their center, a 49.2. That's below 50. That's not good. Their right guard, a 54, and the leader of their offensive line grades was Chukwuma Okafor, who had a 60.6 grade, who is questionable to play in this game.
Oof.
I understand PFF is not the end-all, be-all, but when you look at what the Browns did defensively last week, we look at the talent on that Browns defensive line, we look at the production, guys like Myles Garrett, Za'Darius Smith, Ogbo, Dalvin Tomlinson have done in the past. Against that defense, against that offensive line of Pittsburgh, there is no reason, zero reason the Browns should not be in Kenny Pickett's face all night long. If he had nightmares about the 49ers, then Myles Garrett is the boogeyman all week that he's having to deal with. Za'Darius Smith is Freddy Krueger coming in his dreams, or Jason. Which one's the one that haunts your dreams? And this is up your alley. Is it Krueger or Freddy? Or Jason?
Well, Freddy Krueger. Yeah, it's Freddy.
It's Freddy, yeah. Za'Darius Smith is Freddy Krueger, and the rest of that Browns defensive line is like the boogeyman who lives under the bed. This should be an absolute annihilation up front, and the biggest advantage in my mind for the Browns is in the trenches.
I mean, the games are won and lost in the trenches, right? And as we talked about in the first segment of the show, you know, one of the things that the Browns did against Cincinnati was, you know, they controlled the line of scrimmage. They dominated the trenches on both sides of the ball. And I truly don't see this week being that much different, right? You know, we talk about, is the Browns defensive line number one in the NFL? I say no. I would say that, you know, we definitely have a top 3 or 4 defensive line in the entire league. San Francisco is probably the class. If you look at that entire team, Mike, I don't know if you agree, but, you know, for every other team in the NFL, including the Super Bowl champions, it was week 1. Man, they look like they look like they was in midseason form the first week of the season.
The 49ers, when Brock Purdy plays, they look like the best team that's ever suited up. When he's played full games, they haven't lost. I think they're 10-0 now in games that he hasn't got knocked out of.
And so when I look at their defensive line and I know what the Cleveland Browns defensive line is capable of, I could be totally honest with you, man. Right now, according to ESPN.com, the line is the Browns -2.5. I really don't think this game is going to be close. I think that this is going to be a coming out party for that defense and for that offense, and we'll get to the offense and Deshaun Watson in a minute. But I think the defense is going to show that week 1 wasn't a fluke, that week 1 wasn't just, you know, an isolated situation. And what better way to do it in a hostile environment that you haven't won in so long under the lights in Monday Night Football? We talk all the time about the attitude of this defense. Of course, you know, when you look at Jim Schwartz, you know, being a leader of that, attitude is a reflection of leadership. And so I'm looking at this like, okay, Orlando Brown is, you know, he just got paid to go to Cincinnati, and he couldn't do a damn thing with Myles Garrett.
He got work, Earl. He got work.
And so I don't see how none of these dudes in Pittsburgh is going to be able to stop that. You got Ogbo, you know, you got Za'Darius Smith, you got Myles Garrett. We already know what you got on the inside. Shelby Harrisman in this first action with Cleveland, he balled out when he got his opportunities in there. You just look at the rotational pieces amongst that defensive front. The Cleveland Browns is going to be able to control the line of scrimmage. I'm the biggest person on this team that I might be worried about, that I'm not really worried about, is Najee Harris, right? I don't think Kenny Pickett is going to have much time to look downfield, and I don't think our DBs is going to give up too much downfield to where, he had 28 pressures against him last week. I wouldn't be shocked if the Browns matched that number, if I'm being totally honest with you. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they matched that number, because I don't see that offensive line being able to hold up against another quality defensive front 2 weeks in a row.
What's crazy is you hear that number 28, and that's like the Browns had 13 pressures against Joe Burrow. Like 28 is an absurd number, and 13, by the way, is an absurd number. They hit Joe Burrow 10 times. They're the third most quarterback hits in the league. Like that's a phenomenal. 28's absurd. I'm going to have to double check to make sure I didn't read that wrong. But I double checked earlier because I thought I read it wrong. And then I saw it again. I was like, no, that's right. 28. It's just stupid. The fact that the Browns could have the conversation early, it's a great question. The fact that we could say, yeah, it's possible they could have 28 and or more. Like that is such a position to be, such a power position to be in going into Monday Night Football. And that's why what scares me most about this game is how damn good I feel about it, Earl. Like we haven't, and I say we, can I actually make something clear very, very quickly? I had someone DM me earlier today, was like, I didn't know you were a Giants fan. I can't take you seriously anymore.
Somebody said it to you for real?
Yeah. As if I've ever hid the fact I'm a Giants fan ever. Like I was born in New Jersey. I grew up watching Giants games with my dad. Like,
so what did they think that you was? I mean, you witnessed 2 Super Bowls. You're from that era.
Listen,
people don't know Eli Manning is your favorite player. They thought that was
here's what I want to tell people. My paycheck is tied to the Browns winning. The Browns winning means we get more views. We do better. I'm a Browns fan. Like, yeah, I want the Giants to win as well, but I need the Browns to win a lot of games, win a Super Bowl, so I get paid more money. Trust me. I am all in on Cleveland. My financial future is tied to the Browns. That means more to me than anything else. So
when somebody asked me at my cousin's wedding, right, they was like, what you thinking about the Browns? I say, man, I hope I'm working to February.
That's what
that's it. That's all.
Like, that's a good way to look at it.
I'm objective. I'll tell you what I think. If you ever think that I'm being biased to the Giants over the Browns, like they don't even play each other. They haven't played in 10 years. They haven't played. Whenever they play again, we'll have that conversation. The Giants don't affect how I look at the Browns. I couldn't tell you who the Giants' backup left guard is. I can tell you all 53 men on the Browns roster. Trust me, that ain't affecting nothing about my job. What I was saying though, Earl, is I feel so good about this game. I was talking to someone in the gym today, and he was like, man, I'm feeling a 20-point blowout. And I'm like, me too. And that's terrifying because this is this team that the Browns haven't beaten in Pittsburgh in the regular season in 19 tries. Like it almost feels like we're too confident, but I think Browns, the team and fans have every right to be confident because on paper, this team should absolutely smack the ever-living gobsnap out of the Steelers.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I'm so confident to the point to where I want to say, I'm almost at the point to where if the Browns don't beat these dudes by at least 2 touchdowns, man, the hair got to go.
That's how the Browns let Joe Burrow cut his hair.
That's how confident. That's how confident. Listen, that's how confident I am, man. In all seriousness, right? We know Mike Tomlin is a great coach, and I think that on both sides of the coin, we're looking at revisionist history. We're looking at the fact that the Cleveland Browns have been a dormant franchise for the better part of 20 years. We're looking at the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers for the better part of 20 years have owned the Cleveland Browns, especially in Pittsburgh. And then if you flip the other side of the coin, Mike Tomlin is a coach of a team that even with an incompetent roster, somehow, some way, this team is always in the mix, and this team is always at least average at minimum. But honestly, you could take that revisionist history and you can just throw it away. It's a new break. It's a new day. It's a new time. It's a new era. And I'm looking at this man, this Browns team is for real. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, beating a team like Cincinnati in your very first game of the year before you even go on the road to play Pittsburgh, I don't think some people understands what they can do for a team's psyche or what they can do for that team's confidence. Like the Browns internally already thought that they were good. and then you go out there and you put on a performance like that against a team that just played in the AFC Championship, regardless of the conditions, because both teams had to deal with the conditions, that's not going to do anything but actually elevate that level of confidence, elevate that level of energy. And I truly believe, like me and you believe, that the Cleveland Browns is going to go in here Monday night, man, confident, expecting to win. I think for them in that locker room, they expect, for the defense to play like that. They expect certain things out of themselves. And I think that's going to be on display. And this is not me just being a Browns fan and being biased. I really think we're going to beat the hell out of the Steelers on Monday night. And now all of a sudden the Cleveland Browns is a national story after 2 weeks.
Hey, if you're in the chat right now, drop a 1 if you think the Browns win by 2 or more touchdowns. Drop a 2 if you think it's within 13 points or closer. So give me a 1 if you think the Browns win by 14 or more. Give me a 2 in the chat if you think it's 13 or less. I saw someone ask what I was doing walking past the Justice Center earlier. I was just walking back to my apartment. I live downtown, so I was walking back to my apartment. If you were the dude who said shout out McNuggets as I was on the phone with my mom on the walk, I appreciate you. My mom was very happy. She was like, oh, look. So shout out to you for making my mom's day. Yeah, put 1s in the chat. If it's more than 2 touchdowns, 2 in the chat. If it's less, Earl, like I said earlier, bro, confidence is a good thing. It also terrifies me because overconfidence is real, but I have no reason, no matter how many different ways I look at this, Kenny Pickett doesn't scare me.
At all?
There's not a single player on the Steelers offense that I'm like, oh, crap, there's not a Jamar Chase. You know what I mean? There's not someone who's a game breaker by themselves. I don't believe in Najee Harris. They don't have Deontay Johnson. I think George Pickens is super talented. He hasn't shown me enough yet to make me be scared of him. Pat Freiermuth, who might be their most dangerous offensive weapon at tight end, is coming off one of the hardest hits I've ever seen, and he's questionable to play with a chest injury. Defensively, they're without Cam Hayward. When you don't have your guy in the middle, it makes it infinitely more hard for your outside guys to rush because teams can chip, have a little guard help on the outside. I understand they're going up against Dawand Jones and Jed Wills, who I don't think are elite tackles yet, but it's a lot easier without Cam Hayward. Deshaun Watson's due for a breakout game. Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb. Like, you can't find a place on paper where the Steelers have an advantage over Cleveland, except in the history category.
That's it.
That's it.
And honestly, man, history is just that. It's history. It has nothing to do with current day. You can't go back and rewrite it. You can't go back and change it for the good or the bad. All you can do is focus on the here and now, right? And here and now on paper, eye test, statistically, however you want to put it, the Cleveland Browns are a better football team. And I get the whole, not trying to be overconfident, but Mike, this thing has been building for 4 years, right? Kevin Stefanski is in year 4 of him being a head coach. And Jim Schwartz had been around, he was here with the original Browns and Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is I think that you have leaders and you have people inside that organization and inside that locker room that will keep everything even keel. The one thing that I've known about Kevin Stefanski since he's been here in Cleveland is that he doesn't get too high or too low, whether we win or lose, right? And I don't think he allows his team to get the same way. And I just feel like that's the same approach. You coming off a big win, a dominant win, but that was last week. You need to go out here and you need to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think it's very, very important that the Cleveland Browns actually come out and beat Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
You want to set the tone as letting people know, okay, this thing travels. This defense travels. We already know what this running game is. But not only that, man, now you're 2-0 in the division. We spent so much time this offseason once we got the schedule talking about, the possibility of the Browns being 0-2 and 0-3 after the first 3 divisional games, within the first 4 weeks. But now it seems like the energy has shifted so much to where, okay, now you can look at this thing. You beat Pittsburgh. Now you 2-0 in the division with one more division game to go in your next 4. And now all of a sudden you looking pretty nice if you can take care of your business elsewhere throughout the season. And so I think this is a big game. This is a huge game, and it's hard to, put that into context because it's only week 2 of the season. And typically what happens in week 2 has no bearing on the regular season. But just from a confidence standpoint, from an energy standpoint, like iron sharpens iron. I say that all the time. Yep. And winning is contagious. And if you can come out here and then and you happen to beat them, And I know we probably finna transition to this, but if like, you beat them soundly and your defense shows up, but then 4 comes out and he finally has that breakout game that we've been looking for, it's over with.
Oh, So 2 things real quick. If you have a super chat, Anthony's writing them down. We'll get to those at the end. If you have a question for myself, Earl, Anthony, put it in the chat. Anthony's keeping an eye on that, and hopefully he will put it in the chat. If you have a TV-related question about UCSS on WKYC, we will definitely answer those. Anthony is also looking for those in the chat. So drop a question. That is what Anthony's doing. If he's quiet, it's not that we forgot about Anthony. He is on chat duty for the next few minutes looking at questions. We appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. This is Behind the Glass. Earl, we'll move on to Deshaun Watson and the cornerbacks in a sec. But real quick, we talked a little bit today. I'm getting a phone call. Hold on. Can I answer this on air real quick?
I bet you won't.
McKenna, I'm on air. You know better than this. Come on,
I
bro.
thought it was going to be Miss McNuggets.
I'm on. Yeah. Are you not watching Behind the Glass right now? I'll send you the link. If I send you the link, you have to hop in and drop a comment. Okay. You got to drop a comment in the YouTube chat. I'm on. Yeah. All right. I'm going to send you guys a link. We're going to get some guests. We're going to get some guests on the show. Those are my friends from Texas real quick.
Nice.
But very important. If the Browns put a beat down on the Steelers on national TV, mind you, last week's game, as good as it was a 1:00 game, week 1 of football. Everyone's eyes were diverted because football is back. You cannot avoid what the Browns do on Monday night, despite the fact there's 2 Monday night games this week, which is stupid. If they put a beat down on the Steelers, there is 0% chance the national media can ignore what the Browns are doing, because this is the division heading into the season we said was as good as any division of football.
Yeah.
The Browns would now be 2-0 in sole. If the Ravens win, not sole possession. If the Bengals win, sole possession of first place. What happens when that happens is the lights get turned and shine right into Cleveland, and that's what we all want, because we all agree this roster, unbelievably talented. This coaching staff, well put together. This quarterback about to break out, and this defense has a chance to be special. We know that. There are 49 other states in the country that also need to know that. So I'm excited.
It's funny because, I've been I've had this feeling. You already know. I already picked the Browns to go to the AFC Championship game long before the season kicked off. And for me, I guess, I've been telling y'all especially, I want people to keep the same energy they had. But the truth is they're not. They're just not. That's just not how things go. The Browns go out here and they dominate, and come out victorious against Pittsburgh. Now all of a sudden everybody talking. We got more people on the bandwagon, which is fine. As long as the team itself stays focused on the things that they need to do and understand that we're taking this thing 1 week at a time. Yeah, first thing first, go out here and beat Pittsburgh. In this game, though, Mike, it's something inside of me that feels like that Deshaun Watson didn't play that great week 1, right? Yeah. But I'm pretty sure he's looked at the film already and understand, okay, I can get through this throwback. Me and you was going back and forth on the play today to where we felt like
we're breaking it down tomorrow.
Yeah, it was 2 things that he could have done differently. And so, like, I'm just looking at this thing that knowing that, okay, he didn't play his best, but he was not god awful, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, they won the game without him being great, and now you get the opportunity, coming off a big win, energy is high, confidence is high. I just got a feeling that, national TV, after everything this man has been through, man, what against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, white helmets debuting too. Hey, and what better way?
That's a good point.
What better way to let people know that foe is still him than come out here and have a 300-yard passing game with at least 2 touchdowns through the air and hail another one with his legs. Like, yeah, I really feel like it's gonna be that type of party. I think that 2.5 line, man. First of all, national TV, you at home and you already 2.5 point underdogs. If you're a betting person, man, we already know what that is. They really don't think Pittsburgh got a shot for real.
No,
they just got to keep it close for the sake of keeping it close.
Well, the line started at -1, and after the injuries, it jumped to -1, 2.5. So it has changed a little bit based on injuries, but you are right. Hey, Earl, we talked about this morning. And then you kind of walked back on it. But I think we should have the conversation regardless because it paints a bigger picture here.
Yeah.
You wanted to make the case that MJ Emerson has supplanted Denzel Ward as the best cornerback on the Browns. And I said, all right, if you want to do that, I'll take Denzel Ward just for the sake of argument. And then you texted us earlier. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you were like,
yeah,
I'm not sure I have a real case to make about Emerson. And I responded, well, I'm not sure I have a real case to make about Ward other than longevity. The fact that we can have this conversation, and this is excluding Greg Newsome, who I do think there's an argument to be made that he's a damn good corner in his own right. Or not even an argument. He is a damn good corner in his own right. He just plays a little different position based on the alignment of how the Browns set up. He's in the slot now. We're looking at the outside corners. So we're not excluding Newsome. We're talking about the outside guys here.
Right.
What was your thought process and why were you willing to stand on a limb for Emerson over Ward as DB1 this morning? And then what'd you find in your research to prepare that kind of made you waver on it a little bit?
The only thing that has made me waver is because we've only seen it for one season, right? And it's hard to crown somebody after 1 year of play. And, you know, this is not taking anything away from Denzel Ward or Greg Newsome. And I know we asked the question earlier today on our community tab of who we thought was the best cornerback on the Browns roster. And this is not the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show behind the glass crew trying to divide the defensive back room. We're thankful to have all of them. But
it's a blessing.
And like when I look at MJ Emerson, man, I see a long, physical, athletic, playmaking, ball hawking cornerback, right? And this is a dude that played in the SEC. Yeah, he didn't have the interception numbers, man, but I think Tyvis talked about this, and this is some research I had did on myself, man. The pass breakups, always being around the football, you know, the ability to not be looking and still be able to pick up speed when he runs. Like, it's something about what my eyes see when MJ is out there. It just seems like, man, his playmaking ability jumps off the field. And I understand that he has not recorded an interception yet in the NFL, and you can't count what he did last year in preseason. But just think about this, right? And I just want the fans that's watching to paint the picture with your eye test. Damn the numbers right now. His very first game in the NFL, he had a pick six. You know, preseason or not, Mike, this is still an NFL. You still got to go out there and you're going against other professionals, right? You think about this past preseason, right? On a play that was called dead. He snatches the ball right out the receiver hand, and he would have been gone for another 6. We talk about last Sunday. The dude caught more passes from Joe Burrow than T. Higgins did, even though he was called out of bounds. To me, this is a dude that's very durable. This is a dude that's very physical. He has great ball hawking skills. He seems like he knows every route that his opposing wide receiver is running at all times. And this is not to take anything away from Denzel Ward, but one of the biggest Achilles heels with Denzel Ward has been availability, right? And when you look at Martin Emerson Jr., he's been available. You know, he plays with this certain tenacity that's just like ridiculous. And, you know, and I've said this, you know, on this show, I've said this on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I truly believe that by the end of this season, MJ Emerson is going to be CB1. And I'm not saying that to throw shade at Denzel Ward or Greg Newsome. I just think this dude is that good. I seriously believe, like, if you can go back and redraft that draft, MJ Emerson is a first-round pick.
Yeah. I don't think that's even a discussion.
Like, it's not even a discussion.
No-brainer. Like, he's a first-round pick.
This dude is that good, man. And so, like, for me, you know, when if I had to pick, he would be my CB1. So
it's funny because when I was looking into this and trying to figure out how to make the case for Ward, I also went to the eye tester and I thought, all right, if it's 4th down, right, and I'm testing one of the Browns corners, I'd rather test Denzel Ward than Martin Emerson, right?
Fair.
If it's 1st down and I'm on my own, like, 25, 30-yard line, I'd rather test Emerson than I test Ward. The reasoning behind that is until I see MJ Emerson snatch a couple passes out the air, I'm just more afraid of Denzel Ward coming down with the interception. Same thing with Greg Newsome. Until I see it, I'm not saying they can't. I saw Emerson do it at Mississippi State against Texas A&M when I was covering them.
Uh-huh.
But I think Ward is a bigger threat to actually pick the ball off. I think Emerson's a better guy to negate a catch. And you saw him run as Tyvis broke down so eloquently on the show. If you guys missed Coach Tyvis today on Emerson, I highly recommend going back to our YouTube channel and watch that. I thought, in my opinion, it was his best one yet. The way he was able to describe what Emerson was doing, what he was thinking, the adjustments he made mid-play that only an NFL defensive back can kind of show you. We kind of know what we're talking about when it comes to the technique stuff. Tyvis knows it as well as anybody. Impressive. And there was no room for Joe Burrow to complete a pass against either of them.
Yeah.
But at no point did I think Emerson was like half a step from actually picking it off. There was one or two where it was up there, and I was like, well, Ward might come down with that. So you can make a case for either. I think it's a great problem to have.
It's a significant,
there are a lot of teams that would love
problem
to have any of those three, including Newsome, as their first top defensive back. And the fact the Browns have three of them is a testament to the talent in the secondary. They also have Delpit and Juan Thornhill, who in their own rights are ball hawking safeties as well. Last year, the Browns did not come up with a ton of interceptions. They were bottom half of the league in interceptions and turnovers in general. This year, that can't be the case. They didn't have any turnovers against Joe Burrow in week 1, but when we come back and do our week 18 postgame show, Earl, the Browns better be in the top half of the league because they have way too many playmakers in the front line with Garrett, Smith, Ogbo, all those guys up front, and on the back end to not be forcing fumbles, interceptions, and I want to see some pressure interceptions. I want to see this week, for example, Kenny Pickett get absolutely walloped, throws a duck up there, and we see Juan Thornhill or Delpit come in, get the interception, run back for a touchdown.
Do you think that this is the week that we see either MJ Emerson or Greg Newsome get their first career interception?
Well, I don't want to tease the headlines too much, so I'm going to say wait and find out. But I'll give you a sneak hint. The answer is not no.
Okay.
I won't tell you what the answer is. I'm just going to tell you.
That's a good way to put it.
You know, when I look at Greg Newsome, I don't know about you two, but, you know, I remember when he came on our show and, you know, he talked about playing in the slot or the nickel corner position under Joe Woods. And you could just read his body language. You can tell that was not something that, you know, he had a great fun time doing. That was not something that made his job enjoyable. But I looked at him, you know, last week against the Bengals. Me personally, I thought that was the best game of his career. And I'm not trying to over-exaggerate that at all. I truly thought that was the best game of his career. It seemed like that he was put in position to do what he do well, and he exceeded doing so. So I don't know if you all saw anything different. I know our DBs didn't grade out well according to PFF, but based on the eye test alone, I thought Greg Newsome balled playing the nickel corner position. And I thought that he played free, and it seemed like that, you know, he knew what he needed to do. He wasn't reacting to what was going on. It seemed like he was a step ahead. And just to see that, as you said, man, we got great problems. When you got three cornerbacks like that, like that's hell on wheels. We just went up against arguably the best wide receiver core in the entire NFL. And I'm sorry if you expect me to believe that George Pickens, Allen Robinson, and I don't know who else is going to give these dudes a hard time. I just don't see it coming.
Yeah, so the reality of the situation is the Steelers are going to throw for more than 82 yards. Like, it's hard to believe or imagine a scenario.
Maybe.
I mean,
maybe.
You're right. And the crazy thing is I can't even be like, well, 82 yards is nothing in today's NFL.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're right. Like, I don't think their offensive line can block. I don't think their receivers they don't have an advantage at any spot on the outside. Wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 over the Browns defensive backs, Ward, Emerson, Newsome. Like, I don't think they have an advantage there. I don't think their offensive line can block. I don't think Kenny Pickett's that good. You're right. I still think they throw for more than 82 yards because in today's day and age, 99 out of 100 times you throw for more than 82 yards. But Anthony, if they throw for fewer than 82 yards, would you be like on a scale of 1 to 10, how shocked would you be?
After the way we played, considering we're playing a significantly worse team, I wouldn't be terribly shocked. But let me ask you, how many passing attempts is Pickett going to have to hit those 82 yards or more with what we're going to...
Let me pull up the box score from their game against the Steelers. The Niners. Hold on one sec. So against the 49ers. They lost 30-7. They were down at one point 20-0. Kenny Pickett threw the ball 46 times for 232 yards.
Okay, they might have more than 82.
So if you're losing, like, you're going to throw the ball a lot more. I think part of the reason the Bengals passing numbers were so minuscule was Joe Burrow couldn't hold on to the football. Like, he was not just bad, he was otherworldly horrific. And had he been able to grip the football, I think it would have been a little bit of a different game. I'm not saying the Bengals would have won, but I don't think it would have been that dominant of a defensive performance just because he literally couldn't throw the football. It almost looked like watching the NFC Championship game last year after Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson got hurt. It wasn't simply all runs, but the Browns kind of knew what the Bengals could and couldn't do. So, I'd be shocked. I'd say I'd be
say this.
8 out of 10 shocked. 8 out of 10. Or what out of 10?
I'll say this. He threw for 232 yards. A lot of that was in garbage time. If he was around 230, I don't think he gets higher than 230. I don't.
I would take under 230.
I would take the under 230.
How about this? Between 82 and 230, I give like a 96% chance that it's between those two numbers.
Yeah, like I don't think it's gonna be a good day. He was sacked 5 times, threw 2 interceptions, and so you going up against basically a duplicate of what you went up against last week. A quality team with a damn good defensive line, and and here's the crazy part. I think the Browns have better DBs than the San Francisco 49ers do.
They do.
And so if you're going up against a team that has the same quality of defensive line, but a better quality of defensive backs in the secondary, then I really think, man, this is going to be the game to where the Browns let the world know that they here, that they for real, and that they're going to compete with
did we lose Earl?
Every team in the AFC all of 2023, that they won't.
Awesome.
How much of that did y'all
We're
lose?
going to answer and read some super chats real
I think
quick
it just lagged real quick.
before we wrap up. The first one, Anthony, you want to read these super chats?
Yeah, I'll read a couple of them, and then you can read a couple of them. We'll take turns. All right, so our first one here comes from Chris King Kalas. I think I'm pronouncing that right. $5. This secondary reminds me of the 1985 originally dog pound members: Dixon, Minifield, Wright, and Gross. Woof woof.
Woof woof. Where my dogs at? Woof woof.
Let's see. Next, we've got Professor Chaos. I believe after this season, people will be talking about Jim Schwartz being the biggest signing of the year. I actually that's not far off.
All right, Earl, this is going to be a topic on the show. I wanted to wait for after week 2 to get a little more results, but let me ask you this now, and then we'll see if it changes. But
okay.
What's, by the way, for y'all people out here, I can't know if you see this. This is all content ideas. These are just all random. I don't want to show y'all exactly what. This is all just random things, ideas for rainy days that my random mind comes up with. But this is a topic. You ready? What was the biggest upgrade this season? Jim Schwartz from Joe Woods, Thornhill from John Johnson, Za'Darius Smith from Clowney, or Tomlinson from Taven Bryan?
I think it's easily it's Jim Schwartz, right? Because the trickle down effect is more significant. Jim Schwartz being in the building helps Kevin Stefanski become a better head coach. Jim Schwartz has won a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator. Jim Schwartz is a guy that spent a lot of time around Bill Belichick. So just his knowledge of the game, his experience, the winning cultures that he's been a part of, you bring that into the building, into the coaching staff, and then you can help the other coaches, on the staff and help them in that area. And then, of course, the impact that he will have on the players. And so you can argue that, some of those guys that you just mentioned probably would have been better players for the Browns if Jim Schwartz was the defensive coordinator last year. So when I look at it, I think that the addition of Jim Schwartz and that being the biggest upgrade because it has a more significant trickle-down impact on everybody else in the organization.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that answer is answered after week 2, and then when we revisit it in week 4, 6, 8, 10 to see if it changes depending on the overall effectiveness of this defense and frankly, how well Za'Darius and Tomlinson play. So, Ant, you want to keep going with these? I think we have one more from Chris King Callis. He skipped.
So Chris King, that message was the same twice. So
The Deshaun Watson one?
Never mind. You're right. I did miss one. I apologize. So from Chris King Callis, Deshaun Watson was perfect. Has the perfect opportunity to shut down the naysayers by shining on Monday night, coming out to party.
I agree. We're talking about that. That is the lead topic tomorrow, by the way, guys. Make sure you tune in. It is G, J, and Bull, the OG3 tomorrow. We'll be talking to Deshaun Watson.
I think that Deshaun Watson got a good opportunity, man, to just let people know him. The naysayers is going to be naysayers. People who don't like Deshaun Watson is not going to like Deshaun Watson regardless of what he go out there and do. For Cleveland Browns fans, for people who want to see this team, take it to the next level, like this is an opportunity for him to let people know that he still got that it factor. And everybody's been waiting for that 300-yard plus performance, that multiple touchdown performance. So, this is a great opportunity for him to go out there and put all of that on display.
Yeah, and I do think with the national stage too, and the fact that Cam Hayward's not playing, it'll be fun. I am worried. Not worried. That's the wrong word. I'm curious to see without Hayward if Stefanski just goes heavy Chubb. Like that middle of their defense without Hayward is pretty weak. Their starting defensive tackle now in the middle of that 3-4 without Cam Hayward is a third-round rookie. So I'm curious if Stefanski, who, as Leroy pointed out today, made some adjustments in that first game we hadn't seen him make in the past. He went and said, hey, the weather sucks. Deshaun not playing great. Let's run the ball with Chubb. Let's feed our best player offensively. I'm curious to see if we see that again just based on the matchups, knowing that it's a rookie right tackle and Jed Wills as left tackle against two good pass rushers. The middle of that defensive line may be where they're most vulnerable. So I'm curious to see if it's a heavy Nick Chubb game, and that may stymie the numbers of Deshaun Watson. But I'm not too worried about the actual numbers. Whether he throws for 320 or 220, we'll know how Deshaun Watson looks by the quality of those throws, not necessarily the quantity.
I mean, I agree with you. I think the Browns are going to have whatever game plan that they have going into that game. Only thing I want to see Kevin Stefanski do is, adjust to the adjustments. Adjust your game plan to whatever's working despite what you might have installed or what you wanted to do, et cetera. So just adjust to whatever they're doing like you did last week and just keep this thing going. So
I do want to see one thing, and we'll do real quick, one thing each. One thing you love to see from Watson, the one thing I want to see is if they dial up some sort of deep shot from Marquise Goodwin, it is not underthrown. Regardless of weather conditions, I don't care. Wind, rain, snow, sleet, lightning, thunder, I don't care. You throw that ball as far as humanly possible and let your track star catch up to it. That's what I want to see from Watson.
Yeah, I think that's what I want to see the most too.
Well, I mean, I was going to pick something different for the sake of being different, but, we went over that play. I want to see that exact same play, and I want to see it executed to perfection. Ty, thank you. I'm trying to, man. I'm trying to.
You imagine the balls of Stefanski if he runs that trick play back like exactly the same?
I think he will. It might be flipped. I think it might be flipped, but I think he's going to run it back. I definitely think it'd be the same thing, but he's definitely going to run it back.
Now that it's on film, it'll be interesting to see. But Stefanski's done it before. We'll see if he does it again. And what's next up on the chat?
All right, so from this one comes from Gregory H. Do you guys have any concerns about linebacker?
They played well in week 1. I have no reason to be concerned until I have a reason to be concerned.
I feel the same way. No reason to be until it's time to be.
They're all healthy. They played well. We all thought that group was weak because of the instability and unpredictability of them.
Yeah.
But when they're healthy, I think we all think it's a pretty talented group. So right now, they're all healthy. Not too worried.
Yeah.
All right. And then from Kathy Sedlecki, I think might be how you pronounce that. Do you think this team might be better than the Spice era?
Than a who?
The Spice era is.
The Spice era.
I'm not sure.
I'm showing off my lack of being from Cleveland. I have no idea
this
what
is,
the Spice era is.
I'm going to pull the I was born in 97 card.
Is he talking about the Spice Girls? When were the Spice Girls around?
I'm reading the.
I wonder if you mean the Sipe era.
I bet you she means the site. That has to be it, right?
I mean, I can only assume they mean the Sipe era.
Probably.
I mean, I wasn't alive during the Brian Sipe era, so it's kind of really hard for me to answer that question. I do know my Browns history. I put it to you this way: this is the best team I've seen since 1999. That's as far as back as I can go with that. This is the best team that we've seen since 1999, the most talented team. And I think this is the highest expectations that Cleveland Browns fans has had probably since I was born in 87 when we were winning AFC championships in 87 and 88. So we'll see.
All right. Yeah. What's next?
Just for the record, I read your guys' message verbatim. All right. From Creative Juice, we have safe to say the elf is here to stay. Should fans embrace it more now that some smack talk backfired on an opponent?
You listen, if the elf pisses people off, and by people, I mean other players, and then it turns into bulletin board material for the Browns, then sure. I still think it's kind of corny. I prefer the old logo and/or a real bulldog, but if it's going to help the Browns create their own bulletin board material and give them something to quote-unquote defend here in Cleveland, then I'm all for it.
So I used to have a hoodie with the elf on it like 15 years ago. And I guess I'm only bringing that point up to say, like, the elf is vintage. The elf is not nothing new. And I think because the Browns, brought it back around 3 or 4 years ago, that all this talk about the elf, to me, is kind of overblown. Man, the elf been here since the 70s and the 80s. Like, some of the most vintage Browns gear display the elf on it. The elf has been part of the Browns culture for a very long time. The elf is not anything new. It's cemented with the dog pound. It's cemented with the Browns. It's part of all of that. So you got these new age players making a big deal about something that they truly don't have nothing to do. I mean, they don't know nothing about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people don't understand that, because I think when the elf came out last year, you've seen a lot of people nationally talking about the elf, this, that, and the third. And this elf been a part of the Cleveland culture, the Browns culture for a very long time. I promise you, this is nothing new. This is not 3 or 4 years old. This thing is about 40, 50 years old.
Yeah, I think I might be even one people on our show other than you, Earl, that I love the elf. I kind of like that it's out on the field now, but I think I'm in the minority of that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I like vintage Browns gear, right? And I can just think back to where, I remember watching ESPN Classics with Marty Schottenheimer walking the sidelines as the Browns coach and having on a starter coat that had the elf on it. So, I mean, the elf is a part of the Browns culture. It's just, I pay it no attention because, I mean, these is young dudes who born at a certain time that ain't got a blues clue about nothing that's going on. So,
yeah. All right.
Up next.
From Tyrell Keem, how concerned are you about Deshaun Watson's deep ball? I feel like this is the last piece to the offense. Big plays in run and pass game. I feel we need those plays to top teams.
Earl, you want to start?
Can you read that again?
Yeah, sure. How do you feel about Deshaun Watson's deep ball? I feel like that's the last piece of the offense. Big plays in run and pass game. I feel that's what we need for those to beat top teams.
I mean, I think he got a strong deep ball. I just think the dude missed some throws last week. I've seen Deshaun Watson complete the deep ball. He knows he missed some throws. He knows that he needs to play better from a passing aspect of the entire thing. I think he's a complete quarterback that can make every single throw. He just missed some throws. But everybody missed throws. So yeah. I'm good.
Yeah, he underthrew Marquise on the one play we were talking about. We'll break that down tomorrow. Listen, the weather was crappy. Joe Burrow played horrendous. Deshaun Watson wasn't good.
Deshaun also was dealing with those cramps too in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
Like, I'm gonna give it a week 1 pass.
I don't think Joe Burrow sucks all of a sudden, and I'm not ready to write off Deshaun Watson because they weren't good. It is what it is. It was bad weather, tough to throw the ball. He underthrew a couple. I'd love to see him put it out a little further for Marquise Goodwin, but he was a great, not just a great and utterly top-notch, proficient deep ball thrower in Houston. He was throwing to guys like Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks and DeAndre Hopkins, and those dudes consistently were getting behind defensive backs, so I am not worried. It's not like his arm fell off. He still has elite arm talent, but anyone who's worried that he can't make a deep throw now, I think you're way over-exaggerating.
Yeah,
hey Tip, hey man, hey, that's funny because I consider myself an old soul, but you're right. I did just kind of like try to jump on some 20-year-olds, like I'm too far, like I ain't that far removed from their age, man. But at least you get the point, man. Nah, and I know you was joking, no trolls. We good.
All right, guys. So from Christopher Gillespie, what did you guys think about JOK? I think he played with plays right on time.
Yeah,
he was solid.
Yeah, he was good.
I thought he was solid. I thought that, he got the opportunities from the defensive line, creating opportunities for him to wreak havoc, and he did that. So he did his part.
Yeah, and here's the thing with JOK. Last year he was lost. It was a weird system for him. I don't think Joe Woods used him properly, but more importantly, the reason all the linebackers last year looked like they struggled were there were offensive guards in their face on every running play. And JOK, Walker, Taki, they're not the biggest linebackers stature-wise. And it's really hard to shed an offensive lineman and make a tackle when you're giving up 100 pounds. The fact that they upgraded the defensive tackle position and they have Jim Schwartz in there now is going to make them all better just by assimilation. They're not having to shed offensive guards and then make tackles. All they have to do is make tackles because Tomlinson, Hurst, Ika, Shelby Harris, Za'Darius Smith, they put him inside, Myles Garrett if he's inside. All those guys are now occupying those offensive guards when last season they were in the second level of defense. As long as they're healthy, I'm not worried about them. They're talented. Outside of San Francisco, there are very few linebacker groups in football that across the board are like Pro Bowl, All-Pro. Like, it's just a position that's been devalued across the league for the most part. And the Browns have 3 or 4 guys who I think can absolutely play at that position. So it's just a matter of can they stay healthy. And they looked good. JOK hit a couple plays last week that I thought were pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we got one more for you from B. Skrills. Do you think the Browns should go and pick up Collins from Cincinnati since he got cut by them this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need another tackle. I don't know if Collins is the guy. I don't know who's the guy. I just have my fears that you're now trusting Jed Wills and a rookie who might be – Dawand Jones could be the greatest tackle of all time. We just got to see him start. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. He might be a catastrophe. He might be the greatest of all time. We just got to see him play. More than anything else, less than I trust those two skill-wise, tackles get hurt all the time in football. Like, the offensive linemen get banged up, nicked up. Very rarely do those guys play 16, 17 games in a season. Even the best typically miss a game or two. So I think they got to bring in a tackle just for depth reasons. I wish in hindsight they still had Tyrone Wheatley, but I think they do need to bring in somebody just as an extra option because let me tell you, Alex Leatherwood, the former first-round pick they signed to the practice squad, has now been cut not from 1 but 2 teams in 3 years. If you have 2 teams say I don't believe in a former first-round pick coming out of Nick Saban's system at Alabama, it's hard for me to buy in even with Bill Callahan coaching them up. So, Earl, I don't know what you think, but I would feel a lot better about just having a little more depth, even if whoever they bring in is not going to be a household name.
I really don't care about the name.
Yeah.
Just go get the depth, right?
Yeah.
We just need to make sure we got depth at that position. I trust the offensive line coach to coach up whoever is in that room to at least be competent enough to go out there and play, you know, if they have to. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. I'm not really too worried about who the name of the offensive lineman is, but Andrew Berry see the situation at hand. He addressed it. He'll take care of it.
Yeah, I thought Jay put it well today. When we were looking at kicking options, none of us were like, Dustin Hopkins is the guy we want. It's only 1 week, but he looked pretty damn good in week 1. So I trust Andrew Berry to evaluate if they bring in a tackle, who is the best option at the right price. They certainly have the money. It will not be a money issue. It will be a who does Andrew Berry think is the best fit here. We'll go for 2 or 3 more minutes. Specifically, if you guys have any questions about the move to TV, we are the guys to answer it for you. So ask away. If not, no worries. I hope you guys tune in on Friday. I want to reiterate again, everything we do on TV will be posted on YouTube afterwards. If you are a YouTube watcher, you will get all the exact same content. You will not miss a second. It just won't be live for you guys on YouTube. And if you can, do us a favor, turn on channel 3. Please watch us on Friday. We don't ask for a lot from you guys. It will do us a massive help if you guys turn on your TV, turn to channel 3, and just leave it on for half. You can put us on mute. Frankly, I don't care. I hope you listen. But as long as you guys are on, help us prove to channel 3 that not only is our show worth continuing throughout past football season, but it's something that eventually down the line can be an added addition. And trust us, I can't tell you exactly what we have in the works, but if we do well on TV, it opens up a lot of other financial avenues for us to add to the YouTube portion of the show. So if you have it, turn on KYC on Friday at 12:30. We duly appreciate it. I don't see any more questions, Ant, do you?
No, it doesn't look like anything.
All right, well, we're going to wrap this up then. We are back tomorrow, 11 a.m. on yours truly, the YouTube channel. Creative Juice, it is 12:30 to 1 on Friday on channel 3. 12:30 to 1 o'clock on Friday. We'll post it after. on YouTube, but to watch it live, that has to be on channel 3. We got a couple little different things. And hey, you guys always talk about, you guys talk over each other too much. Well, they only have 4 to 5 minutes per segment. It's going to be a very different feel to UCSS, but I think it's going to be a blast. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We are back tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. For Anthony Antonelli, for Earl the Pearl, and Mikey McNuggets, we will see y'all later.
Peace.
Bye, guys.